you try to criticize the regime, as we saw here with Jimmy Kimmel, you're in big trouble. You see the same thing in Hungary or in China. And those who follow free speech, nonpartisan groups, including some right-leaning groups, are incredibly alarmed on what is going on here. You cannot censor speech because you don't like it. And that's basically what Trump said. He's going to go after every outlet that criticizes him and try to censor and control him. Might as well take the First Amendment to the Constitution and burn it. Burn it. Consign it to the flames, because the whole purpose of the First Amendment is not to protect speech you like. You wouldn't need it then, right, Sam?
Right.
It's to protect speech you don't like.
I remember when I was at college, what were those guys called? That crazy church who would like hold horrific signs. Oh, Westboro Baptist Church.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember the Westboro Baptist Church came to my college and held their horrific signs, and the First Amendment protected them.
Of course it does. That's the whole point of the First Amendment. It's got to protect the whole range of speech. Once you start protecting only speech that you like and that you agree with, you have sunk into the bog of authoritarianism. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just look around at the world. Just look around at every authoritarian regime in modern history, from the Soviets to present Russia or China or Hungary. That's exactly what they do. And that's exactly why we have the First Amendment, to protect all speech. And here's what nonpartisan free speech organizations, I'm not going to quote a single Democrat, have said what's going on. The premier free speech organization in America, and maybe the world, is called PEN America. And they said, quote, "This marks a dark new level of capitulation and censorship of speech, more redolent of autocracies than democracies." Autocracies than democracies. I'll repeat that. The Trump administration's regulatory crusade against free speech has crossed an historic line with the indefinite removal of Jimmy Kimmel Live, an act of government-instigated censorship against satire and comedy, by demanding that broadcasters use public airwaves only for government-approved speech. The politicized Federal Communications Commission has sent a chilling message. Commentary, even jokes that challenge the president, will be met with swift retaliation, unquote. Connor Fitzpatrick, senior attorney with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, says, quote, "These are dark times for free speech in the United States. This administration believes that they can decide what the public should be able to hear, and that should strike fear in every American who values free speech." FIRE, the official organization of the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, another media outlet, withered under government pressure, assuring that the administration will continue to exhort and exact retribution on broadcasters and publishers who criticize it. We cannot live in a country where late-night talk show hosts serve at the pleasure of the president. But until our institutions grow a backbone and learn to resist government pressure, that is the country we are. SAG-AFTRA and the American Federation of Musicians said, "This is the type of suppression and retaliation that endangers everyone's freedoms. It is state censorship that is now happening in the United States of America, not some far-off country. It's happening right here and right now." This is not Democrats. These are independent organizations that represent musicians, actors of every political stripe.
Not musicians.
Probably not.
No,
there's Christian rock musicians. And they should have freedom of speech too. There's a lot of Christian rock musicians, in fact. All right. We talked about this before. When the Biden administration was in power, who were the biggest critics of censorship, even of hate speech, and the biggest critics of what they called cancel culture? MAGA. And among them, guess who was prominent? Mr. Carr.
Yes.
Carr posted a quote from Biden.
I have it here.
Yeah. Good satire is about our leaders, about our society, is quintessentially an American thing. And did Mr. Carr dispute that, Sam? No.
He said, right here.
Biden is right. Political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of speech. It challenges those in power while using humor to draw more people into the discussion. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted for censorship. Here's another Carr post from December 2023. Quote, free speech is the counterweight. It is the check on government control. That is why censorship is the authoritarian's dream. That's not Elizabeth Warren.
No.
That's not Bernie Sanders.
No.
That's Commissioner Carr himself.
He's a hypocrite.
Worse than that.
Oh.
It's you know, you need a new name for this. It's beyond hypocrisy.
Right.
You know, when the Democrats are in power, by God, people can say anything they want. Any attempt to control it or censorship is awful. Free speech is essential to fight authoritarianism. But of course, once they're in power, all of that gets burned in the flames, and now government censorship, just because we don't like the speech, is fair game for censorship. And it goes beyond. Yeah, go ahead.
I've seen a bunch of people on the right, crying about this, being like, oh, the left is really the cancel culture people. They've been trying to cancel people for years. We have never, ever, ever, ever seen the government involved in cancel culture like we have here. We've never seen the government involved in controlling speech, universities, we've never seen. And people say,
the Smithsonian.
What about the Twitter files? When they were trying to block the Hunter Biden stuff. It is not equivalent. Also, during the Twitter files, there was also Republicans trying to talk to Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. We've never, and most of these left-wing cancel stuff is mostly, left-wing Twitter people. It's
marginal people.
Yeah, it does not have the same weight as what's happening now.
Yeah. I was an expert witness in a case involving educational controls in Florida. And the opposing expert, a very conservative academic, made this claim, all of these liberal academic institutions are canceling out the voices of the right. They won't let anyone who's not a liberal speak on campus. And I looked at the examples he gave, and they all fell apart. It's very, very rare that a higher education institution actually cancels an invitation to anyone of any political stripe. It's less than 1%. But, they'll still make this claim and maybe find one or two examples out of hundreds of thousands, and claim that's the truth. But Sam, you put your finger on it. This is the critical thing. This is the power of government controlling our speech. And what they're doing with Jimmy Kimmel is not, as you point out, an isolated incident. They are now claiming they're going to do this across the board. They're going to get tough with everyone. They're already doing it with the Smithsonian, censoring what they can present to the American people in an incredibly biased way, going after free speech at colleges and universities. A recent decision in their attempt to control Harvard blasted them, saying, this is such a gross and clear violation of the First Amendment. So this is only part of a massive attempt to censor what we can say and hear. And once you do that, you're halfway towards authoritarianism. I've recommended to you many times the book Spin Dictators, which points out that an essential way in which authoritarians take control of your life is controlling what you say, what your education is, what you think. The other part, which we'll talk about more in another show we've broached before, is the militarization. And we're seeing both halves of the same walnut in the Trump administration. And it is incredibly frightening.
There's another frightening thing that isn't being talked about a lot that's related to this Kimmel Nexstar stuff. It's that there's been a law for a long time, or a regulation, I'm not sure, that says one company can't own more than 30% of the market that goes directly to the televisions of Americans. Right. What Nexstar and the FCC chair are trying to do with this merger is they're trying to end that rule so that a single company does own access to more than 30% of household televisions. And that in and of itself is extremely concerning. There used to be, I think, 50 plus media companies that controlled the majority of the market. Now there's 5.
And that's scary.
And they're
big corporate.
Right. In and of itself, regardless of Jimmy Kimmel, if Jimmy Kimmel wasn't involved, if this freedom of speech stuff wasn't involved, that alone is concerning, that this Trump administration is willing to give more consolidated corporate control to these massive companies.
And the fewer there are and the more corporate they are, follow the money, they can be more thoroughly controlled and censored by the government because they're so dependent upon the government. It's a truly frightening development here. Thanks for watching our video, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and become a member today.